What the Tech is sponsored by Hover.com. Domain names made simple. Go to gfq.hover.com and get 10% off your entire purchase. And by Stitcher Radio. Listen on the go via the Stitcher mobile app. For more information, go to stitcher.com/GFQ. Welcome everybody to another What the Tech. I am Andrew Zarian. I'm joined by the one, the only.
This guy.
I was trying to come up with something, and I couldn't this week. Paul Throughout, everybody. How you doing, Paul?
Good. How are you?
Very excited today. As we are recording the show, I am installing Windows 8.
Not because of the new Chromebook?
No, not because of the new Chromebook. I'm not excited for the Chromebook. I may be excited for Linux if you listen to some of our previous shows, but I'm installing Windows 8 as we speak, and so far 30%.
There you go.
And hopefully I'll be done by the end of the show, but we'll be installing Windows 8. We'll be talking about...
Now, you're doing the live install, right?
A live install.
So I would suspect that that's going to be a lot slower today than, say, it will be in about 3 or 4 days, you know?
Well, no, is it a live install? Is that how it works?
Yeah, if you do the default link off of that preview page.
Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah. So I'm installing it right now. We'll see how that goes. We'll see if we finish in time. But I'm hoping to get in the new Windows environment by the end of the show. I'm sure it's not going to be too many changes from the previous version, but the previous version of Windows 8, not Windows 7.
Well, a lot of app changes, I think, is the way I would put it.
So is that what we're looking forward to? Now you have it installed, right?
Yeah.
And what do you think of it so far?
I mean, I've been using this thing for so long, it's kind of hard to... I literally had to put a consumer preview machine next to this to sort of remember it. It seems... it just seems very close. You know, it's right there. I think the Windows 8 stuff, which is actually, for a kind of a small footprint, has been done for some time. And then the apps in this version are a big deal. And actually, if you go into the store, once this thing is installed, there's a bunch of new apps in the store as well. Wikipedia's in there. There's an Amazon app and so forth. And I really think it's the apps that are going to make the difference in Windows 8 and are going to kind of complete the story there. So that stuff is all looking really good.
No, I'm really excited for this. I'm still on the fence about how I feel about the entire environment, about Metro. The news came out this week that Microsoft is killing off the ability for you to kind of put a start menu on the bottom. I know a lot of people are going to be upset about that, but I think it's all matter of getting used to at this point, right? It's a whole new operating system. It's totally different than anything else that we've seen. Yep. And, most people are going to be a little weird about getting used to it because we like to know everything as enthusiasts. And now we don't know everything. It's a fresh start.
We should embrace this, though. I mean, this is exciting. I like that it's different. Another version of Windows 7 would have been, there's a certain segment of people who would have loved that, and I understand, but it wouldn't have been very good for me. I mean, there's not a lot to talk about, not a lot to write about, and it's neat. I mean, it's neat on a number of levels because it's, all new stuff, touch interfaces, really nice UIs. And then it's weird because it's kind of grafted onto Windows 7 too, right? I mean, there's like a desktop and the Metro environment.
Yeah.
And, the interactions between them are a little strange, I think a little hard to get used to and so forth. But I overall, for me, I think it's, and I would say for tech enthusiasts, I mean, this is a chance to do something new, and I think it's just fun for that reason.
Now, they're going to give everybody about a year, right, to hang on to this copy?
The one I have, it goes to January.
It goes to January.
That's what it is, yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's enough time for you to upgrade.
Yep.
It's pretty fast, Paul, 56%.
Yeah.
I mean, I was at 30% when we started the show, so it's going by really fast.
When you do... the way this is going to work in the future is a week from now, this whole process will probably take about 15, 20 minutes.
And on an SSD, it'll be even faster.
Yeah.
I'm
excited
to
installed this
do
on this new computer. Remember I was going back and forth between different Windows installs, and you go through all the weird Skype stuff every time I reinstall. But when I first installed this on the new computer, It booted literally from a dead stop in 6 seconds. Really fast.
When I initially installed the consumer preview, one of the big complaints that I had to do with the trackpad on these devices,
Mm-hmm.
and you had said, well, when there's more driver support, it'll be a better, I guess, experience for you to use this. Has there been updated drivers? What do you know about that? Because and I don't know if you feel the same, but I feel that the trackpad, the way the trackpad functions with Windows 8 is really going to affect your experience with Windows 8. And many of these, lower end laptops have cheaper trackpads, and the drivers aren't that great, and they don't really function that great. So
yeah, so
what
this
are they doing
varies
for it?
wildly according to machine. So on the Asus Ultrabook that I have, the default drivers are fine. It's all the basic stuff, but I find that my wrists trigger the trackpad even when I'm typing, and so the mouse cursor will go flying off, and I'll deselect the text document or whatever it is, and it's a mess. And so what I did on that machine is I downloaded the Windows 7 Synaptics drivers, and one of the features of that little utility they give you that goes into the mouse control panel is the ability to turn off the trackpad when you have a mouse installed. And so I just plug a mouse into it so I can type, and I don't have to worry about the trackpad. So it's going to depend on the system. I also have a new, I guess it's a Samsung Series 9, but it's the new version.
Yeah.
And that one has beta drivers for the trackpad, and it lets you do all the multi-touch stuff in the trackpad. So you can pinch to zoom, you can rotate pictures, you can pan and scroll with it, you can activate the Edge UIs like the Charms bar and the app bars and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you're going to see that kind of stuff as well, but it's going to be a little while for the Windows 8 specific capabilities to appear. I think the trackpad guys are just starting to get going on that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. How is it with a mouse? I have yet to use it with a mouse.
It's great. It works fine.
It works fine.
That's my basic setup. I mean, so the computer I use every single day is just a big tower computer. It's got a Microsoft keyboard, one of those ergonomic keyboards,
sure.
A big Microsoft mouse, 27-inch screen, and it's mouse and keyboard just like you use Windows 7. And all of the Metro UIs, the Edge UIs, which are really kind of hot corner UIs with a mouse, they all work great. They work fine.
Now, major changes between the last version and now the release preview, Paul. Well, what can you say was the biggest change, except for eliminating Arrow?
Well, actually, they haven't done that yet. So Arrow is actually still in this build.
Okay,
that's coming after the release preview. It's funny they're moving toward the post Arrow UI, so that's flatter looking, and you'll see that. I mean, that's kind of interesting on the desktop. The start screen is far more customizable, so you get a lot more color schemes to choose from. There were only 6 in the consumer preview, now there are 25. That's nice. A lot more apps support some of the built-in features like notifications.
Okay.
And so now the mail app will put up a notification when you get new mail. The calendar app will put up one when you get a schedule event. More apps support sharing. So if you want to share something in the past, you could share via email. Now you can share also via the People Hub, and that means you can share via Facebook, Twitter, whatever online services you have connected to that. So
I'm actually on winsupersite.com right now, and you have a post there, new trackpad gesture support.
Yep.
So I guess that'll explain a lot of it in there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just very curious to see how this is going to finish and what's going to happen with, the not the mainstream user, because they're going to adapt this like we've said every week. I don't think the average computer user is going to look at it and say, oh my God, what's happening? I'm done. I can't use Windows anymore. But a lot of the hardcore users are not going to be happy with the way that Microsoft has shifted into this in the beginning, and I'm sure everybody's going to get used to it towards the end, but
I don't know that we need to worry, about those guys too much. You're right. There's going to be a lot of complaining, a lot of gnashing of teeth and whatnot, and people get very upset about this kind of stuff. But people are going to debate the strategy, and I do too. Of course, I engage in this. I can't help it. I'm a tech enthusiast at heart. I don't have any answers. I have lots of complaints, but you get used to it, and it's fine. And I think that the strategy they have by putting this into Windows, they're going to get it in front of hundreds of millions of people very quickly. If they had released a tablet that just had Metro on it and it was running sort of a Windows Phone OS or whatever you want to call that, nobody would have bought it. So I think the smart part of what they're doing is that even though it's weird to kind of have both in one system, and it's something, again, we're going to debate this for months and months, maybe for years. It's one of those things that is just going to get it out there, and I think that's I think that's why they did it.
73%, by the way, if you guys are looking for an update. I'm at 70%, 73% with the upgrade, and I should be done in a couple minutes, so we'll see what the changes are like. I don't know, Paul. Have you installed this version on the tablet?
Yeah.
And how is the stability compared to
the consumer preview? It's funny. It's just as good, and it was good in the consumer preview. I mean, it is not something that you think about worrying about. You know what I mean? I can throw a build on my laptop. I can install the 1 or 2 drivers I might need at the end, put Office on there, and I can walk out the door, take it to it, and be at an all-day event, and everything just works. I never even think about it.
Well, see, that's the advantage. I mean, that's the advantage that Microsoft has. The one thing that people are complaining about is the advantage it has over everybody else, because it's a unified operating system. It works on the tablet. It works on the desktop. It works on the laptop. So it's all connected. It's the same experience on all, depending on what device you have.
People are stressing over how poorly supposedly this thing's going to work on normal computers. But listen, Microsoft gets normal computers. They've been making Windows for years. They know that a huge percentage of people are going to use it on their existing computers or buy new computers that don't have touch. They have a keyboard and mouse or a keyboard and a trackpad or whatever. It's going to work. It does. I use it every day. That's how I use it. In fact, it is almost exclusively how I use it.
Yeah.
On the trackpad, the Ultrabooks I have, or my desktop computers, it's just like Windows 7. It's keyboard and mouse. I'm not typically touching it too much. But I think one of the more exciting things that's going to happen this year are going to be all the new devices, not just the pure slates, but the hybrid devices, convertible tablets, the all-in-one computers that have touch on them, the standalone displays you're going to be able to buy that have touch. There'll be trackpads, no doubt, just like the Apple trackpad, where you can buy a trackpad and add that multi-touch capability on a surface in front of the screen instead of on the screen. I mean, there's going to be a whole ton of different things happening, and you're able to jump into this at any level you want to.
Now, with you saying that, do you think a lot of manufacturers are going to attempt to do the touch screen with, the trackpad, combine it all into one thing? Yeah,
definitely. I know they are.
Do you see that taking off in any way? Because people are going to get used to touching the screen.
Yeah, here's why. There's a weird thing that happens when you do get too used to touch, right? So on those times when, I am using the tablet for whatever reason. This happens almost every single time. I'll spend some number of hours working on the tablet for whatever reason. I use that tablet for screenshots for the book, for example, because it's got the perfect resolution for that. And then I'll move over to my regular laptop, and I swear in the first 10 minutes, I reach out and touch the screen at least 3 times.
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing, people will say, well, the reason Apple didn't build touch into their Macs was into the screen part of it, that is that, it's hard to hold your finger up or your hand up in the air against a surface that's vertical. And that's true, but it doesn't preclude you from only doing it occasionally, right? I think even on a keyboard and a mouse system, there are people who will seamlessly switch between keyboard shortcuts or the mouse and not really think that they're doing it. You could close a window by typing Alt F4, or you could go up and click the little thing. You may do both. Sometimes you'll do both. And I think the systems that will have all the different types of inputs, people will find themselves moving back and forth, including touch, including the trackpad, maybe, including a pen, by the way. We haven't talked about this too much, but Windows 8 supports all of the pen and stylus type stuff that Microsoft has been doing for over a decade now in the tablet PCOS. So all that stuff works fine too.
I think one thing people have to get used to, and someone just said Windows key plus, whatever shortcut command it is, that is a much quicker way to do things than to, move your mouse around on this operating system. And I think that's going to be the thing that many people have to learn to start doing.
Yes.
It's much faster to use these, Windows key shortcuts.
Some people don't like to do that. I type. And so for me, anytime I can keep my hands on the keyboard and get stuff done, I'll do that,
A little update.
I don't tend to use the mouse to find the corner and then go down the side and say, okay, there's the app I want. I do Alt Tab,
It's resetting, Paul. What do I do?
You do nothing.
Okay.
Maybe pray to
Okay.
whatever God you have.
Hopefully it'll come back. Hopefully. I'm really curious to get an SSD and pop it in this thing because I'm looking. SSDs are so cheap now.
Right.
Where you could get 128 gig for under $100. So I'm thinking about just popping in SSDs in all these laptops that I have, and really, bringing up, the quickness.
That has
of it.
gone for, in the past when you talked about making a computer faster, right? You could obviously reinstall Windows. That's one of those big tips. Adding RAM was always the classic one, These days,
no more fish, Paul.
You can.
The fish is gone.
Fish is gone. It's not a beta.
Okay.
Right. Remember, it was a beta fish.
Okay. I'm glad. I'm happy about that. Because the first time I installed it, and it's embarrassing to say this, but I thought the computer locked up, and I said, "Oh no, I did something wrong."
Right.
And I just turned it all off, and I started over again with the install.
Oh,
and I told you about it. You're like, "No, that's the loading screen."
That's what it does.
I thought it meant it's broken, but I guess I was wrong.
Right.
Prepping 10%. So it's, I guess, installing.
Yeah. So
now.
this phase, what it's doing here is it's going to load the drivers.
Okay.
And so eventually, what you're going to see in here is something about hardware devices. I can't remember what the exact language it uses, but it will say something about hardware here.
Yeah. I'm just curious on how fast this entire process takes. So this is a big thing. Have they discussed the release date officially? I mean, now that this is out, have they kind of?
But they hinted at it.
Yeah.
And I had gotten word from a source that I have that the RTM date was August 1st. And actually, I should just bring it up so I don't paraphrase. But
I mean, that's pretty quick. I mean, that's.
Well, right. So 2 months, right?
Yeah.
It sounds a little implausible. But then
mean,
in today's blog post announcing this release, Steven Sinofsky says, and I quote, if everything goes well, we will enter the final phase of the RTM process in about 2 months. And if we're successful in that, we are tracking to our shared goal of having PCs with Windows 8 and Windows RT available for the holidays. About 2 months, August 1 is about 2 months. Tomorrow's June 1st. So they're very quick. They're kind of lopping a month off of the process there.
Yeah.
So I expect to see, I would say, honestly, given the high quality, and again, this is when I say high quality, obviously people have different opinions about Windows 8, but I'm talking about the quality of the code. It doesn't crash. It doesn't blue screen. The thing is very reliable.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the beta that we know of. Years ago, if it was a beta of Vista or it was XP, you kind of stayed away from that. But as of 7, a beta is really not that unstable version of the operating system that
No, this one's getting. Pretty damn close. You can tell.
I mean, even the developer preview was okay. I mean, it wasn't awful.
It was only awful in the sense that none of the apps were there.
None of the apps were there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So August 1st, they're aiming for RTM.
For RTM, and that means
in a month or so.
I would say early August.
I
think for the launch.
Okay.
The public launch.
For what, RTM?
No, for actual new computers.
For actual new computers.
Yeah.
I mean that's soon. So they're gonna make it back. For back to school, they're gonna make the target for that. Because last year when they released this, it was kind of late, and people were saying, "Well, why did they miss the back to school season? It would have sold a lot better."
Yeah. So that's an interesting point, and I wonder now that they've exceeded the expectations for this release, if they couldn't do the same for the next and deliver the RTM as well as the launch a little earlier. I mean, unfortunately, back to school is really August, right? I mean, to hit back to school, you really have to be done in August.
First week of August, yeah.
Yeah, because
it's different.
The time that people go back to school varies, from around the country here in the United States, but it's never in October.
Yeah, for some people it's the second week in August. For some it's the last week in August. For some it's September. Second week in September. So
where I live, it's the Wednesday after Memorial Day or something, or I'm sorry, after Labor Day.
Yeah, so I'm curious if they're going to make their target and what their first devices are going to be. Are we going to get the ARM devices out there with the initial launch?
Yeah, I would say so. I think so. They haven't talked a lot about that yet. So
that's fascinating to me, Paul, because if I'm a consumer and I'm the average consumer and I walk in and I see Windows, tablet, I don't care about the Windows RT. It's a Windows 8 tablet, and it's $299. And then next to that, I see a Windows 8 tablet that's $499. I won't be able to say, oh, well, this one is running an Intel and this is running an ARM chipset.
Yep.
How are they going to compete in that market? It's almost like they're competing with each other.
Sure.
Do you think they have a strategy on trying to?
I assume they do. They haven't voiced it very well.
I mean, they would
so
have
far.
to condition the consumer to realize that this is a different thing than that.
So, yes, if you go to a Best Buy right now, there's a tablet section, right? And the tablet section of Best Buy is where the PC section used to be. It's a big space. There's not a lot in it yet, but there's a big space. And I would assume that Microsoft is going to sell, or Microsoft's partners or Best Buy, whatever, will sell those Windows RT tablets there. There's also a PC part of Best Buy that's smaller than it used to be. It's like a couple of aisles now. And I would assume that the Windows 8 PCs, including those that are tablet PCs, will be over there, and that they'll differentiate them in that way. Now, of course, that's not the only way that people buy PCs. So it's going to be interesting to see how Dell and HP and companies like that who sell traditional computers are able to sell both side by side, and how I'm very curious about that. I don't think that the Windows RT name is going to be enough of a differentiator. They need to be very clear that there are advantages and disadvantages to both, assuming there are advantages to Windows RT. Certainly there are disadvantages. So
well, here's the thing. With the netbooks, they've been pretty successful at telling you that this is much slower than the other thing. But I think that also has to do with size. I think a lot of people in their minds go, well, if it's smaller, it's slower than the bigger ones.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been able to sell that way. But if you have two nearly identical laptops.
Yep. By the way, nearly identical hardware plus software, right? You'll look at these machines and say, I don't get it. They look the same. And now you're telling me that the one that I bought doesn't run, whatever application I may want to run, Photoshop or whatever. It's going to be interesting to see how people adapt to that.
Yeah, very interesting. By the way, it's moving my settings, so we'll be
moving your settings. Okay, so it did some retention. What did you upgrade from, or how did you install this?
It was consumer.
Oh, okay. See. These guys told me they weren't going to do this.
Yeah, so it says moving your settings 100%. But when you go in, when you're doing it, it says you're blowing everything away. It's a clean install. You keep nothing. Like it says, what would you like to keep? And it says nothing. It's actually checked off saying, okay, here we go. Let's go through a few of the basics. Okay, personalize. What color should I pick, Paul? Chat room, pick a color. Let's go with the blue. All right, let's go with the blue. I like the dark, too. That's cool. Okay. Computer name. Windows 8. I put an E instead of a W. All right. Windows 8. There we go. Let's go to next. Wants to get my network. Let's go to this one. Let's connect. I wonder if it'll remember. No, it won't. So let's put in my password. Paul Thurrott.
He's a douche.
Paul Thurrott 123. All right, so it says settings. So I could do an express settings or custom settings. Express automatically install important recommended updates, help protect Windows, help improve Microsoft services, location services.
There's no reason not to do express.
Okay, so let's do express. Email address. See, okay, so I have this issue, Paul. My Windows Live email address is constantly spammed with, for the message, like their messaging service. I get a message from this person named Gabby saying, hey, I saw you in town. You look cute. Want to chat? And I get this about 15 times a day.
Really?
And it's always the same screen. I mean, no matter how many times I block it, it's like Gabby 3 and Gabby 4 and Gabby 5. So can I start over? Or do I have to use my existing account?
You could absolutely start over. I mean, the reason you would use an existing account is because you've been playing the Xbox for 3 years or whatever and have all these achievements associated with it. You've been using Zune and Zune Pass and you have all this music associated with your account. You've been using your Hotmail account for email. You get all your email over there, whatever. But if there's nothing in the past that's associated with that account you already had that you care about, just create a new account.
Okay. So I put in the old one. You convinced me with the achievements. So
Okay.
now I got to put in my password.
The problem I had was and I think a few people listening to this probably have the same issue. Where I had a couple of different accounts like an idiot, and
Yeah.
I was using originally my Zune stuff was going through one account, my Xbox stuff was going through another account. Um, it's eventually I just had I just settled on the old one, which is the Hotmail account, because that's where most of the important stuff, important like.
So here's something interesting. It's asking for security verification, and it has my phone number.
Yeah. So what it's going to do is send you a text message. This way, this is their version of Google's two-factor authentication. And this is actually kind of a nice thing to have, because this is them, now that they're making this your login for the computer, obviously they want this thing to be secure. They don't want someone hacking your account. And by tying it to your mobile phone, you can be sure, every time I make an account change or every time I log on to any computer, which I do a lot, for the first time, my phone starts buzzing and it's, Microsoft, and you can okay it from the phone.
All right. So now I told it, to use the phone number. Your PC will be ready in just a moment. So let's see what happens with that. We're going to get back to the Microsoft Windows stuff, but I do want to go on to another topic. I want to talk about FiOS, and Paul and I both have FiOS, and there was some unbelievable news that came out this week, and I'm actually very surprised that this story got released, and that Verizon is actually doing this. But Verizon has bumped up their top tier service, their package for FiOS, to 300 by 65 megabits a second.
Yeah.
This is mind-blowing speeds. They've confirmed that in early June, everybody's getting a bump. So there's a whole chart. You could go to dslreports.com and see the chart. But everybody's pretty much getting a bump in speed to something, even if you're on the lower end.
Yep.
This is very competitive. Now, who are they competing with? I don't know, because nobody else in this area specifically offers this. And if you have FiOS, probably nobody's offering these speeds. Very interesting that they've bumped it up so high.
It must, there must be some capacity thing where this is almost not free, but just easy for them to do.
Just to bump up the speed.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, supposedly mine's going to go to 50 over 25.
Okay.
50 up or 50 down, 25 up.
I'm going to 150 by 65.
It's ludicrous.
I mean, it's crazy speeds, but it's wow. This
I'm sure my 1979 Action Tech router can handle it. So.
Yeah, I have the red one now, Paul.
There.
I have the red Action Tech. But this is something interesting, and we've kind of fallen behind in internet speeds overall in the country. But what does this mean for every other provider? What does this mean for the cable providers that are still offering 5 by 2?
Right.
Is this going to kickstart a some sort of war between the cable company and Verizon that we didn't see before? I mean, I'm hoping this changes the tone of other companies. This doesn't really mean much for most people because they can't get FiOS.
Right.
Or if they can, they're locked into some service. But there's many people out there with Time Warner or Cablevision, which is
hopefully
Comcast.
it just spurs these other companies to raise their speeds as well, or lower prices or whatever.
Yeah, they're saying the cable operators are closing into FiOS speeds with DOCSIS 3.0, but I have not seen anybody get anywhere with the speed. I mean, let's talk about the upload speed alone, which really matters. 65 megabits upload is unbelievable.
It's better than almost everyone's download speed in the United States.
In the United States, I mean, some people are still on, 2 megabit, 3 megabit, 4 megabit connections.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. Yeah.
I have a whole theory on this. I think they're doing this because they've fallen so behind with the cable channels, with the high def channels.
Right.
This is their way of kind of justifying it, and this is their way of keeping their users, because they've really fallen behind big time when it comes to
I still don't have the newer router or the newer set-top box, and I can tell you that the worst parts about using FiOS are those two things.
The set-top box and
it is a source of frustration,
Okay.
It's awful tearing out what you have to put new stuff in, so if I were going to switch over to Xfinity or something, it would just be terrible, doing that. I don't even want to think about it.
All right,
but I do think about it, and the reason I think about it is because this hardware is so terrible.
Let me ask you this. What are your options? What are your choices right now in your area?
Well, we have Comcast. I believe we still have a local cable company, RCN, which is kind of probably a New England thing, I would imagine.
Oh no, we have
And
RCN
that's all
here.
I'm aware of. I think that's about it.
Yeah, we have RCN. I
Oh,
mean,
you have
right now
RCN.
we don't. It's weird how RCN works. RCN is in some like apartment complexes, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But if you're like right next to that apartment complex, you can't get RCN. I guess they signed a deal a long time ago, and that's it.
RCN has kind of a mom and pop vibe
Yeah.
to them. They're not a big player.
So I'm looking here in the chat rooms. Rich 715 says 20 by 5. Another person says 5 by 10, 50 by 10. Another person says 20 by 3.
All right, so
60 by 60.
it's interesting, but this is something everyone but FiOS gets wrong.
Yeah.
The upload speeds are always a horrific tiny percentage of the download speed. You really want those things to be as close to each other as possible for the best experience. I've never understood why you would want upload speeds to be slow.
Look at this
They must
one,
be
20
trying to
by
prevent
1.
file sharing. It must have something to do with that. I
20
can't
by
imagine.
1. Metro Scenes in a Room has 20 by 1 meg up.
Yeah, it's so yeah. So that's almost like saying it's like you have a satellite dish, and you have cable for download only, and so the only way you can upload is over satellite or something. That's just.
Do you
that's
think it's for
weird.
piracy? Do you think it's for piracy, or do you think it's to kind of hold back the traffic?
I don't know. It has to be pirate. I can't even imagine. I don't understand why anyone would want it to be that way.
Yeah, I don't get it either, because uploading is the most important part of it. You really, you're downloading, but I would give up. I mean, if I could, let's say I didn't have a choice, let's say I had like a 50 by 3, I would give up nearly all my download speed.
I'd rather have 25/25 than 53.
I'd rather have 5 by 5.
Yeah,
10 by 10.
A lot of times, I'll be traveling and I need to get something off of my computer from home. It's weird that could be the bottleneck. Would be my upload speed at home. It's
so Paul, now I am in Windows.
Yep.
All right. What should I do?
Well, there's all kinds of things. I mean, I think so first of all the tiles that you're looking at on the front page there are the bundled apps. You should look through those. The Windows Store is live now, and so there are new apps in there that are worth checking out and seeing all that stuff.
I'm trying to scroll and it's not letting me.
You might have to. Well, there'll be if you're using a mouse, there'll be a scroll bar at the bottom.
No, you know what it is. I'm using. Oh, there we go. No, it's the trackpad. The stupid thing. See, this is my problem. I'm trying to scroll and it won't let me. I broke it, Paul.
Yeah, let me look at the.
What'd I do?
Let me see here. It's funny, when you have a mouse with a scroll wheel, the scroll works even on those horizontal screens like the Store. It's nice.
Okay, so let's go to top free downloads. So have they added a lot more, or is it still?
Yeah, I was looking through the Store. It's funny. There's definitely new stuff in there. Like Wikipedia is new. Amazon has an app in there that's new, but I'm looking at specific parts of the Store. I mean, I see a lot of stuff I remember from before. There's definitely some new apps, maybe not as many as you would have expected.
Yeah.
I think they said there were hundreds of new apps, but I think there are hundreds of apps. I'm not sure there are hundreds of new apps. Plus, I guess the other thing that would be worth doing is seeing whether any of these apps that had been around previously have improved. Dramatically. Like I used the Kindle app before. It was kind of bare bones, to start with. So let me log into this thing.
So I'm going to top free in general. So there's a photo app, the Kindle app, a SkyDrive. So I'm going to download SkyDrive. Let's install. It's
nice. It's pretty nice.
I mean, it's pretty smooth with the entire process. I mean, I think they just tightened up a little bit from the previous one. Yeah, they did. No, there's a big difference from the previous version.
Yeah, a lot of it is just a ton of little fine-tuned type things that really, actually kind of make a big difference.
So here's my question to this, and to this issue that I've been having. If you, like the Xbox app, right? If it's coming pre-installed, why does it give you an option to install it in the App Store?
In the Store, yeah. That's a weird little bit of unsophistication. I'm not sure about that one. So actually, that's a good point. Let me visit one of those apps.
There's so many weird apps in here, huh?
TuneIn Radio, Cocktail Flow, by the way. You're going to want to look at that one.
So I just...
That's an amazing app.
Is it a drinking app?
Yeah, but to go look at that one. That's a very, very cool app.
All right, so I have TuneIn Radio here. I clicked on it, and I'm waiting.
So let's see, Xbox Companion. I have.
So I'm guessing this is a fairly new app. Allow. Let's see.
Yeah, it says install. It's weird. It shouldn't, right? It should know that you have it. So I don't know what.
Yeah, I'm gonna, I'll spend all day on this thing, but
yeah. I mean, once you click on install, the install button goes away. It doesn't install because you already have it, and then it just keeps working.
This is interesting. This is not my calendar. Oh, you know what it's doing? It's grabbing it from Facebook.
Yeah, these are things you would have tied into the account.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, we could play around with that for hours. I like it, Paul. I do.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. So, what's the shortcut to go into Windows? Like
into the desktop.
Yeah.
Windows key plus D.
Windows key plus D. Okay. Oh, very nice. And then you go back, and then you do Windows key plus D. Well, that's pretty fast. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's, away. Like, it doesn't feel like you're loading into a different operating system. It's pretty seamless.
Yeah, it is quick.
And that's what's really going to...
It's like app switching.
Yeah. I think that's what's really going to keep it.
Definitely.
I do want to go into the Facebook story. The big story last week. We didn't get a chance to really discuss it, the Facebook stock story, because we were drinking last week. But the collapse of the Facebook stock, a couple of weeks ago, if you had asked all these experts, they would have told you the stock is going to fly up. It's the next Google, but it's pretty much collapsed. And as a tech company, like we've seen this happen in the past with something like Groupon and Zynga. What does this do to a tech company like this? Because Microsoft stock, if you consider Microsoft, they've kind of been flat for years. They've been at the 20-something mark. So
yeah, I think that Microsoft is a mature stock.
It's a much mature, yeah.
They're almost like an old money stock at this point. I mean, they're kind of tried and true. The Facebook one confuses me a little bit because I look at Facebook as being a company that is above Groupon and little companies. I don't think I mean, obviously they're not quite Google, but and they certainly haven't done a great job of monetizing what they've done. But they are the single most popular social networking service on earth by far. They have almost 1 billion active users. Facebook is a thing. I mean, Facebook is a destination. Facebook is what everyone uses. I don't. When I do something that's semi-meaningful, I check in on Facebook. All of my relatives and my friends are on Facebook. Facebook to me is meaningful. It's something. I'm a little confused by it. I mean, Morgan Stanley, a representative from that company, I think was at the D10 conference this week and said that the problems with that stock were solely related to basically technical glitches, which is kind of ironic, but.
I mean, listen. Technically, that happened the first day. The first couple days. It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah, but now it's got the stink of death about it.
Yeah.
There's a weird vibe to Facebook now from a stock perspective, where people are thinking, maybe this thing isn't the big deal.
Well, what's scary is that the stock is going to start kind of deciding where they're going with certain things that they're doing. A lot of people have been saying. A lot of these analysts have been saying, well, how do they make money? Right. How are they going to keep making money? What are they going to do? And I'm curious if they're going to start doing that. One thing that we've seen them implement over the last week, and I just saw this, if you have a page, like a Facebook page or a company, if I make a post, so let's say I'm going to do hello, everyone. When I go to post, it gives me the option, hey, do you want more people to see this? Because you could buy X amount of distribution and promotion for this post. So now they're selling extra posts. So they're saying, well, if you want 35,000 views, it's X amount.
That's interesting. I don't. Certainly there are people who disagree with me about this one. I don't look at Facebook as a commercial destination. Okay. I don't. I mean, I know obviously companies use Facebook for this purpose. I don't know.
I mean, do you see
their business? What's that?
Do you see it being that? I mean, they have to come up with some sort of model. And
I think of it as people. Okay. And I think once it's corporations, I don't want to mingle with Coke and Apple and whatever. I want to mingle with my friends and with my relatives. Once it becomes, that is something I'm not interested in, and maybe, by the way, I might be the minority on that one. I don't know.
But I mean, I guess the way they see it is, somebody's going to hit like for Coke and
Sure.
for who knows
Yeah.
what, because everybody clicks on everything. They're going to hit like for Coke, and they're going to get constant reminders from Coca-Cola, and they're not going to be smart enough to unsubscribe or defriend Coca-Cola.
No, I don't see. I just
So it's
don't.
like a commercial.
I think somewhere between that and basic, just advertising, right? Basic banner ads and whatnot is a business model to be had. I mean, there are people who write, or companies, I should say, usually are developers who write video games that sort of run on Facebook, whatever that means. And I don't know how is Facebook just a free place where a developer can, publish an app or a game, or is there some kind of revenue sharing occurring there? I would hope it's the latter, because people are using their platform. That should be something that, when Farmville takes off, or whatever the next Farmville is, Facebook should be able to participate in the success of that thing, just like Apple does when a big app takes off on iTunes.
Yeah, I mean, people see this as a source for revenue and the way they're going to market it. I think when they enter the search feature of Facebook, in which they're kind of looking into becoming their own little search engine, right? That would be a total shift in the entire dynamic of Facebook, because now it's everything. And at one point, that it's going to become overrun by too much.
Right.
You look at something like Yahoo, that was a simple search engine, then it became a gateway. MSN is another thing, but Facebook, Google has really not done that. Do you see Facebook going in that direction where they're just starting to pack everything in there? Because everybody's on it anyway.
They're two different things. Facebook is a destination. Google is a tool. Google is how you get to a destination.
Yeah, but I guess some people are seeing Facebook as a potential tool.
Well, of course. I mean, I don't use Facebook for this purpose, but one of the things I'll do on Twitter occasionally is, Twitter is a great place to get out there and say, I have a question. Here it is. And then you get answers. I mean, people answer you right away. There's certainly some merit to doing that on Facebook. I've seen relatives of mine have done this. I need a blah, 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 whatever it is. And then, I'll see people that they know that I don't know, and people they know that I also know will reply to these things. And it's like a little, virtual community kind of thing. But that's people, that's, to me, that's even the name Facebook is supposed to connote,
well, I mean, they're at the point where
notion of people.
They're openly, considering jumping into the phone market with a Facebook phone.
Sure.
With their own, interface and their own look. And
I don't think that's necessary. To me, Facebook is a feature of a phone, not a phone.
But see, that's one thing that I don't understand. Why would they even want to take that plunge into that? Why would they want to be a phone itself? Why would they want to be a phone?
I think it's I think it's part of keeping their brand and their face out there. The problem is, there's a flip side of that. When the Facebook phone doesn't sell well, that's another thing that makes them look bad. And when you do something like that, and I think when you stray too far from what you really are, people start to lose interest.
I mean, I guess they've become some sort of news, base where a lot of people get their news from Facebook. They follow people and they don't really have to go search, and they kind of have filtered through everything, and they have specific people that they know are going to put stuff that they're interested in.
Sure.
So when Facebook has already become your news source, it's not too far off of an idea for them to become a search engine, and then for them to become some sort of phone, and to have, you tapped into that environment the entire time.
Right.
Because that's what they want. They want you to be connected to that environment as much as you can.
So, I mean, you just described AOL.
Yeah, I did. Right? That's funny.
I don't know.
Could you have seen the AOL phone?
Yeah, I mean, if smartphones had happened 10 years earlier, sure.
You've got mail.
Of course, absolutely. That would have been the ringtone. Definitely, but it's it's just a different world. I mean, the walled garden approach, I understand why they want what they want, but the truth is, on smartphones especially, we're in an app world, and Facebook is an app, but it's only an app. People are not looking to, people look to Facebook for specific things.
I'm spending more time on Twitter than I am on Facebook because I'm able to actually filter a lot of the stuff. Like, I wish I could turn off more people on like when someone wants to befriend you, like you can't really, if it's like a relative, like then it's like an insult if you don't accept them.
Right. Well,
So on Twitter,
I used to handle Facebook differently, but the way I do it now is if I know them really, I mean, they're in, and
yeah, but see, I have a lot of people that I know really that I don't like. So I'm kind of
okay.
stuck.
So I've not encountered this particular problem, but I think the way I would handle it is you don't have to friend them. I mean, you could just ignore it.
I'll give you an example. I have now I know you could unsubscribe or hide stories from people, but I guess can I hide all stories? No, I can't hide all stories. I could just hide a specific story. So I have a relative, and I like their husband, but I don't necessarily like them. So now I'm already friends with the husband, but I can't not be friends with her because they see me talking to the husband. So now I'm stuck hearing about her ridiculous concepts of life. The way
okay,
she thinks.
Actually, so I guess I have to be careful here how I describe this person. Certainly, there are people on Facebook who overpost.
Sure. Yeah.
I've actually had a conversation with my wife about somebody that we both know where I said, this is almost like a very public cry for help. I don't think they see it that way, but clearly something is wrong.
Yeah.
Like they have way too much time to be posting all this crap on Facebook every day. Something's wrong with this person. And, my wife, the way she described it was she had kind of struggled with whether she should be hiding this stuff and not seeing it. It's tough because you want to be able to use Facebook for what it is, but then what if something happens that's important,
Sure, yeah. And I think about that all the time. So how do you filter through the crap?
I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook. The truth is I don't visit Facebook every single day. I typically access it when I'm doing something that I think is meaningful. I'll check in from time to time just to see what's going on. I really do think the pros outweigh the cons. I mean, I'm amazed. I'll flip through it and, my sister's kid broke his arm on the, in the swing set, and my cousin, has a child and they're visiting California, whatever. Sure. I mean, you just find out these little things that, you may or may not have found out in the old way, the old world, but it's so much more immediate. It's just neat that it's there. I'm just, I don't know. I get the bad part of Facebook, obviously. But.
So I'm just curious on where this company is going to be in a couple of years, because now that they're a publicly traded company, the way that they function is going to totally change, and the way that they perceive certain things is going to be changed. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mark Zuckerberg gets ousted in a couple of years. Like it becomes like an Apple situation, because now you got to answer to other people. You're not just the boss anymore.
I don't see him as a visionary of any kind at all.
No,
I don't think there's any original idea there. I think the original idea for Facebook was in fact stolen, but.
And listen, maybe we're wrong, but I don't see him as like a Steve Jobs or even a Bill Gates. I don't think. I think he was just
lucky. He was right place, right time.
I guess right place, right time. But at the time that Facebook came out, there were a bunch of these that came out.
Facebook is a big deal, but they've never made any money. Bill Gates built a very successful company. Steve Jobs did as well. This guy has not.
I mean, that's some luck, right? I mean, that's really the $1 billion lottery ticket.
Sure. Well, I mean, the guys who make Angry Birds make a lot more money than Facebook probably. It's probably 3 guys in a garage. Probably, maybe not anymore, but I'm sure it was for a long time. And it's awesome to have users, obviously, but you have to be able to turn that into money.
Yeah, and how do you do that when it's a free service like that? Yeah, exactly.
If he really is a visionary, by the way, he will step aside and let people who are actual businessmen run the company, and he'll assume a visionary type role. He'll always be the founder of the company or the co-founder.
But see, where can it go? That's the interest. Like when you see a Microsoft or a Google or an Apple, it's endless where they're going to go. The vision. I mean, it could turn into something out of
But Facebook's kind of stuck.
Facebook is kind of, I mean, where can they go from here other than becoming a directory of people
Sure.
It's a human directory. I mean, it's a worldwide public directory that you could find people and know what they're doing at every second of the day. It's pretty invasive, but That's what it is, and,
No, their
and we
goal
know
is to
that.
keep people in the networks, right? So this is like a Facebook camera app now that if successful, people will think of it that way. You know, in other words, I'm taking this picture because I want to share it on Facebook. You know, I'm not just going to take it and then go to the Facebook app and upload. Like I'm going to do it from the one thing. It's a little thing, but I think it's a smart strategy. I mean, well, I suppose there is an end, but there's no real end to the growth that they can have as far as users go.
Yeah.
They just need to be able to turn it into
Money.
a business, like an actual
It's very interesting
entity.
Yeah, I find it very interesting, Paul.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see where this company is going to be in a couple of years.
I think they're going to be fine. I mean, obviously this has been a rough start, but I think the assumption from people who didn't know any better was that this was like the next Google.
Yeah.
And they're not the next Google. They're a smaller company than that. They're not the next Groupon either. Well, although this kind of weirdness at the corporate level is certainly present in both companies, but I think they're in between, and I think their stock will reflect that, and I think the amount of money they'll eventually make will reflect that as well.
Yeah, I'm. It's very interesting. To kind of stay with the Windows theme, I want to go back to it, and we did this a couple of months ago. I think a month or so ago. We did, when we first did the 10-year game, we discussed Windows and where it could possibly be going in the next, 10 years. I do want to revisit that a little bit because now that we have a clear vision of what they're planning on doing, and I had initially thought that they would, and Paul, I believe, said it too, that they would kind of keep both environments. They would keep the desktop environment and they would keep Metro, and they would kind of coexist together, coincide together, but I don't see that happening anymore. I do see them leaving the desktop. And I mean, they're killing legacy code, right? I mean, the start menu, the start orb, that's what it was, and they're done with it. So where do they go from here? Where can they go? Have you changed your opinion on this? Do you see them, now that we have a clear vision of where they're going, is it a little different for you, where they could possibly be in 10 years than it was maybe 3 months ago?
Right. One of the things I noticed in Windows 8, because I wrote a book, I'm writing a book about it. So I look at parts of the system that maybe I wouldn't care about normally, right? You see some very interesting things. A lot of the user account stuff now occurs through this Metro interface, but some of it is still in the old control panel.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing with parental controls. There's like a single little switch you can turn on when you create a new account. You can determine right there whether that account is going to be covered by parental controls. But if you actually want to configure those parental controls, you still have to go to the old interface, which is in the control panel. And so they're in this place where the Metro stuff is very immature in this release. And so I think what you're going to see is, I don't know if we'll ever get to the point where the desktop's gone. Well, I guess, maybe it will be gone eventually. But I think what you're going to see over the course of time, whether it's Windows 8, Windows 9, Windows 10, or however they update the system, that the Metro environment that we have right now is very basic, and it will be augmented with new capabilities. But, even just looking at what they've already achieved with this version, they've done something that on the face of it sounds impossible. I mean, if you'd gone back to the day they launched Windows 7 and said, oh, by the way, this is what the next version is going to look like, no one would have believed this. It's crazy.
In 3 years, we're totally, doing a 180.
You like all this new stuff we just did? Yeah, it's all going to be gone. But they've taken Windows to a new place. If you look at the history of Windows, and God, Microsoft loves to look at the history of Windows, these 11,000 word posts, but the evolution has been very obvious. It's been in line with what you would expect. So that, as PCs improved, Windows adapts and they pick up all the new capabilities of the new hardware types and everything. The GUI gets better and better. As the internet comes along, they embrace the internet. They build a browser into it. TCP/IP is built into it, and all that stuff makes sense. Cloud services, yes, integrate with cloud services. Very simple. But the change they're making now, right now, is the most dramatic change they've ever made, because they're embracing these simple mobile devices, the iPads and the Android tablets and the smartphones, and they're really infusing that kind of system into Windows. It's very radical.
It's a very radical thing, and you had an image on your website a couple months ago, and it was like, this is what Windows Desktop should have been.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Why does it look like this?
why doesn't it look like this? But that makes more sense than what they've done now. It's just they've kind of
Well,
evolved into this. They haven't really done this.
yeah. So by the way, they
forget about what
explained to
we've
me
done.
why it doesn't look like that.
Yeah,
but
they did.
but yeah, there are reasons. There really are reasons. One of the things that's, by the way, the reason they're getting rid of the Aero environment, the desktop, is tied into the same thing. When you have a system that has multiple floating windows and the user can run all these different things all on top of each other, forget they're running, memory's running rampant and so forth. There's only so much you can do about power management, about battery life, about performance and reliability and all that stuff. There's only so much you can do. So one of the things that Microsoft learned over the years working on Windows Mobile and then on Windows Phone is that this is a different kind of system. It's self-contained. These things are sandboxed from each other. It's way more reliable than traditional Windows. If we could move to a system like this on the desktop, we could improve a lot of things for a lot of people. Obviously, in the process of doing so, we're also going to inconvenience a smaller subset of people who don't like the fact that this thing's a little more limited or a lot more limited. Depending on how you want to look at it. So I think there are going to be compromises over time. They know that the multi-monitor stuff that they're doing in this version is not very Metro friendly. You can have Metro on one monitor and that's it. There are reasons for that, but I think once you attach something to multiple monitors, the reasons that you were restricting it in the first place no longer apply. You don't have to worry about power management. You're connecting to multiple monitors. Clearly, you're plugged in. Why should a powerful desktop computer or a powerful tablet that's docked and on power be constrained in that way? You're only going to use multi-mon when you're connected.
Yeah.
So I think that stuff will mature.
Now,
I know it will.
I don't. When I say desktop is going to be gone, I think desktop in its current, way will be gone. I don't think we'll have this desktop environment where like there's a recycling bin in the top corner. I think it's going to be something totally different than what we have now.
Sure. I mean, it's not hard to imagine a Metro-like environment where you have like tiles in the bottom instead of a taskbar and sort of like windowed applications, but or at the very least more powerful applications like Photoshop and Office that are running in a Metro or Metro-like environment. We get attached to something that we were actually against in the beginning, but this desktop environment maybe has run its course. And so, I give them credit for being forward-leaning. We'll see. I mean, I think the next 3 years are going to be interesting. We'll see how people use Windows 8. I'm sure they'll have lots of.
But what do they do if it fails? Like
data about that.
Not that it fails, but what do they do if it's just overall? I mean, people just don't like it.
Yeah.
What are they going to do then?
Well, they've kind of staked the future on this. I don't know that there is a plan B. I mean,
they're really banking that. Well, if it's a numbers game, it won't be a failure. Right. I mean, that's for sure. So if they're gonna go around,
but they really need to pay attention to the feedback, right?
Yeah,
and not just the feedback, but the data. People can opt into this customer feedback program, and they'll see that people are mousing around and not finding the thing they're looking for, and they'll see that people are not clicking on. They created this switcher interface. What if nobody ever uses it? Well, maybe that wasn't the best way to do that, and so Windows 9 or whatever, they'll fix that with some other interface or some fine tuning of that interface or whatever it is. It's the same thing. When they added the desktop to Windows 95, that thing evolved with evolved capabilities over several versions of Windows. So will Metro. They'll get it there.
Yeah, it's very interesting stuff, Paul. It is, and the future of this operating system is really hanging in the balance of how the consumer likes it, and the feedback that they get. They might get. Don't
forget the phone too. So
the phone too, yeah.
They're going to have a phone that looks like this, that is this. They're going to have a tablet, Windows RT. They're going to have a whole slew of PC devices.
But I don't see it doing bad on the phone. I don't see it doing bad on the phone, and I don't see it doing bad at all on the tablet.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're going to justify it as all around how it sells, I think it's going to be pretty successful, and people are going to like it on a tablet and on a phone. But
I use it on the desktop, and I use it as a desktop.
And you like it.
And it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's everything that was in Windows 7 plus some more stuff.
But how much time do you spend in Metro, and how much time do you spend in the
I don't spend any time in Metro other than when I have to write about it right now. But part of that is because, there's two reasons, right? There's one, the type of work that I do. I write and I multitask, and I am the type of person I am. So the desktop is more suited to the way that I work. The other one is, though, I just don't have a viable Windows device that I would carry around with me that would be like an ebook reader or a tablet or whatever. And so maybe in the future I will. You know, right now I travel with an Ultrabook. Maybe a year from now it's an Ultrabook where the screen comes off and it's a tablet. And then I can, you know, then I'll spend time, you know, I'll be on a plane and I'll want to use one of the entertainment apps or whatever. We will see. But at that point, it may be that the ability to run the same OS on all these different types of computers will be a serious advantage, where I could seamlessly pick up, work on a document, come home, fire up my desktop computer, and be working in the same document.
Yeah.
So there are you know, we get caught up in the negative stuff around Windows 8, but it's important to remember that there are some serious positives here as well. And I think ultimately it's going to be a bigger deal for people than the negative stuff. You know,
I'm surprised they didn't upgrade their icons for the desktop.
Give them time.
Okay.
That's
Thanks a lot, Paul. I appreciate that for the feedback. Everybody could go to our website, gfqnetwork.com. If you miss any portion of the show, you could always catch it archived there. It's also on winsupersite.com. Subscribe to us. You could subscribe to the audio feed and the video feed. We have both. We ran out of time. We didn't do an Audible pick. Next week, we'll definitely get to the Audible pick again, Paul. WinSupersite.com. You just did. Actually, I was going to plug Windows Weekly, but you guys just did Windows Weekly 2 hours before this show. So next week, I guess. Okay, so Paul, next week is Blog World.
Oh.
So I am not in studio.
Okay.
So we're probably going to have to reschedule again to another day.
You know, what's interesting about that is the week after that, I'll be away. But actually, I might be able to do it still.
Okay, so we'll figure something out. I'll keep you guys posted. I don't know. Well, we're very professional here.
Yes.
GFQNetwork.com, winsupersite.com. Also follow Paul on Twitter. His Twitter handle is TheRot. I'm Andrew Zarian, and we'll see you all next week on What the Tech. Good night, everybody.